All right, in this video, we are going to talk about how to hire, how to attract, how to retain the best employees for your law firm. This is going to be a crash course, a hiring 101, so to speak. I talk to so many lawyers and they say that the biggest challenge that they have is attracting top tier talent and getting, the best employees to work for their law firm. And the reality is that as you get more successful, as you get more leads, as you get more clients, you've got to have employees that can support you. You've got to have a staff that can help you, that you can trust to do amazing work. And the reality is that most people kind of suck at their job, right? So how do we get rid of those 90% of people that aren't very good at what they do? And how do we bring in and find that 10%, that cream of the crop that is going to help you take your law firm to the next level? That's going to make sure that you have amazing results for your clients. That's going to give you the confidence to step away from your law firm. If that sounds like something that you want, give me a me in the comments. I want to know that I'm talking to the right people here, right? So we're going to talk about, first of all, how to find A players, how to hire them, how to motivate them, how to do all that stuff. My company has a lot of experience in this because that's basically what we do, is we only hire A players, right? So the concept of hiring A players compared to B and C players, I didn't even kind of understand this concept. And I didn't know about this concept until I read the book No Rules Rules a couple years ago by Reed Hastings. Now, Reed Hastings is one of the founders of Netflix. In the early 2000s, Netflix was going through a bit of a crisis where they had to lay off about 2/3 of their entire staff. They developed a simple test. Here's how we're going to figure out who we're going to keep and who we're going to let go. What we're going to do is we're going to look at every single employee and we're going to ask one single question. If that employee came to me and said, I'm leaving, I'm going to another company, would we let them go or would we fight to keep them? And by asking that question, they were able to essentially figure out who we're going to let go and who we're going to keep. They went through the little test and they determined who they would fight to keep, and those are the ones that they kept, and they figured out who they would let go to the other companies and wish them well, and they let all those people go. What you would have thought would have happened is that productivity and development and everything would have slowed down in Netflix, but actually the opposite happened. They had 1/3 the staff and they got twice as much done as they were getting done before. And they were more productive than ever, and they were getting better results. And that's one of the key things that led to Netflix's rapid growth. And the reason why is because A players are significantly more productive and more valuable than B players. Bill Gates once did a study. He thinks that an A-level programmer is worth 10,000 times the value of a B and a C-level programmer. In fact, there was a study in 1968 where a bunch of researchers brought 9 computer programmers into a room. They gave them an envelope with specific coding instructions and specific debugging instructions. They expected the top performers to be like 2 or 3 times better than the lowest performers, but they were actually shocked to find that the top performers, the A-level candidates, the A-level employees, or the A-level coders, they were 25 times faster and 25 times more productive than the lower level coders. A players are who you want to surround yourself with. That's who you want to build your team with, right? Now, there's a couple questions that you need to ask. So the first question is, how many employees do I even need? There's a very good gauge for this. A healthy law firm typically has 1 employee for every $250,000 in revenue. So what that means is that if you have 4 employees, you should be doing $1 million in revenue. Now, some of you are going to say, yeah, I've got 6 employees. We did $800,000 and all my team is saying that they're overworked. Well, that's when you need to start looking at productivity levels. You need to start looking at utilization levels. You need to start looking at, do we have all the right people on the bus? Because like I said before, A players are significantly more productive and do significantly better work than B and C players. Think about all of your employees and ask yourself that question for every single one of your employees. If this person left, or if this person came to me and said, I was offered a job at another law firm and I think I'm going to take it, would you fight to keep them or would you let them go and find another person? That's actually a really good test to figure out if you have A players or not. And trust me, if you have A players, if you have rock stars, you know you have rock stars, right? So the goal is to balance out that ratio, to have that $250,000 for every one employee, or one employee for every $250,000 in revenue, and to try to get people that are capable of working like that. And that's a very good ratio for you to follow. Now, let's talk about how do you find and how do you attract the best employees? A lot of times I talk to law firms and they say, I just can't find A players. I just can't find those amazing employees. In fact, tell me if this sounds like you. Let me know in the comments if this scenario kind of sounds like your scenario, like what happened. So what you do is you put a job ad up. Maybe you go to Indeed, maybe you go to Monster.com, Career Builder, LinkedIn, and you get a bunch of resumes. And they're all just kind of mediocre. They're not that great. They're just okay. They're just meh, right? You have to make a decision though, because you didn't get any amazing standouts. You just got a bunch of mediocre crap. So what happens? You go through the mediocre, you interview a couple of mediocre candidates, you end up hiring a mediocre person, and then shockingly, against all odds, they do mediocre work. They cause you more stress. They cause you more headaches. The definition of a business is a profitable commercial enterprise that runs without you, right? If you have employees that rely on you for every next step, that can't be trusted, that complain that there's too much work to be done, that they're just not productive enough, those are the types of people that are robbing you of your sanity and of your freedom, and it's driving you crazy. So that's typically what happens though, is that you basically put up a job ad, you get mediocre responses, you hire a mediocre candidate, and then they do mediocre results. And you're left frustrated because you're like, you know what? I could have just done this myself. It'd been a lot easier, a lot faster, and it would have saved me all this headache, right? Let's talk about how to actually attract the best employees now. Most job ads are basically a list of responsibilities, right? Most job ads are just talking about what the business wants. Here's what you need to do for us. Here's the requirements that we require of you. But the reality is that a job ad is just like any other ad. You have got to stop thinking about what your business wants, and you have to start thinking about what would an employee want, right? This is something called employee company fit. Like, what is going to make somebody actually want to work for your law firm? So you need to copyright your job ads so that they are actually going to make people want to work for your law firm. So a lot of times the title of a job ad will just be like paralegal or administrative assistant or associate attorney or whatever it is, right? Try using some descriptive words. Paralegal at a fast-paced law firm that's changing the world for our clients, or changing our clients' lives, or something like that. Something to actually make you stand out. Prove that you're different by actually doing something different. Don't do the same crap that everybody else does, right? The description needs to talk about why they should want to work for your law firm. They should talk about what's in it for them. What is the benefit for them to work for your law firm? And there's going to be 5 things that you need to include in your description. I'm going to get to those 5 things in a few minutes. What it is basically you have to think about something called product market fit. Product market fit is basically when a product fits the market very well, then what ends up happening is it ends up taking off like a rocket. So like, for example, there's a company called Y Combinator. They're a VC firm out of Silicon Valley. They have had hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. They invested early in Instacart, in Dropbox, in DoorDash, in Twilio, in Zapier. Like, there's so many just massive companies that they invested in. I saw an interview with the CEO of Y Combinator, and they asked a very simple question. They said, how do you keep coming up with hit after hit after hit? How do you just keep picking these unicorns? He said it's really easy. You just invest in stuff that people actually want. And it makes so much sense. When you create a company that people actually want to work for, the company's going to take off like a rocket because you're going to attract the best employees. So it's not product market fit, it's employee company fit, right? Let me give you an example of a bad employee company fit. And this is an entire industry. This isn't just one specific company, but like the healthcare industry. Think about it. There's such a shortage in nurses and physicians right now. Why is that? It's because they're underpaid for the amount of work that they have to do, for the amount of hours that they work. They get inadequate benefits. They work in a high stress environment. They have a massive workload. There's a lack of resources. You remember back in COVID, nobody had any like personal protective equipment. You know, there wasn't enough resources for them. They work in a challenging work environment. And it's no doubt that attracting new nurses and attracting physicians is very difficult. In fact, I was just reading that Florida is expected to have a shortage of nurses. They're expected to be 59,000 nurses short by 2035. And the reason why is because there's more cons to working as a nurse than there are pros. What you need to do is you need to make sure that you are creating a company, or creating a law firm that has very good employee company fit. And then people want to come to work with you because of the fact that it's actually an enjoyable place to work. Remember, everybody's interested in themselves. Everyone wants to know what's in it for me. WIIFM, everybody's favorite radio station. What's in it for me? WIIFM. Now, your job as the leader of the law firm is to act as a coach. The coach sets the tone of the entire franchise, or in your case, the coach sets the tone of the entire law firm. Another role of a coach is to recruit the top talent. Think about college football coaches, any college coach. My daughter, she graduated from high school 2 days ago. She's got softball coaches from different colleges contacting her, seeing like if she'll come try out for them, and because they're trying to recruit talent. The other part of a coach, the other role of a coach, is to coach them using their talent to perform at the highest level. Your job should not be to train people how to do their job. Your job should be to recruit the best people who already have the skills, and then you lead them. You lead them where we want to go, right? So to attract the best talent, you have to create an environment that is attractive to the best talent. You have to answer this question: why should I work here instead of somewhere else? And you have to have an answer to that question. Because if you don't have an answer to that question, you better bet they're not going to be able to figure it out, right? That's a very, very powerful question to answer, because when you have that answer, you can start attracting people and you can start showing them why they should work for you instead of somebody else, because A players get to pick where they work. Think about Tom Brady. Remember Tom Brady when he left the Patriots a couple years ago? He went and he interviewed in Miami. And then he interviewed in Tampa, and then he interviewed with the Denver Broncos, and there's probably a couple other teams in there as well. Do you think that they were interviewing Tom Brady to determine if they want to bring Tom Brady in? Or do you think that Tom Brady was interviewing them to determine if he wants to go to the Miami Dolphins and win a Super Bowl? Or does he want to go to the Tampa Bay Bucks and win a Super Bowl? Or does he want to go to the Denver Broncos and win a Super Bowl? Oh, okay, yeah, I think I'll go to the Tampa Bay Bucks and I'll win a Super Bowl. And what did he do? He went and he won a freaking Super Bowl, right? Because A players get to choose where they work, because they're A players, because everybody wants them. They are in high demand, right? When it comes to attracting amazing A players and asking the question, why should I work here instead of somewhere else? Or why should an A player work at your law firm instead of somewhere else? There's 5 keys that you can use to attract amazing employees. The first key is compensation. Goes without saying, A players, they want to get paid more money, right? The best talent gets paid more. Typically on any sports team, the best player is also the highest paid. That's not coincidence. That's because the best players demand the best money. The best employees demand the best money. But here's the reality. Maybe you'll pay 25% more for an A player, but you'll get 5 times the productivity out of that A player. You could pay 25% more and essentially get better work, and also probably do the work of about 4 or 5 people. That's exactly what Netflix saw. They slashed their salary budget by like 60%, yet they got more work done and they did a better job. Now, compensation comes in 2 ways. One is going to be their actual salary. And then the second part is going to be their potential earnings, which includes bonuses and things like that. Now, you want to be very transparent about that stuff, and you want to have a very attractive compensation plan. Figure out what is the average for the market, and then you're probably going to have to pay a little bit higher than that if you want to attract A players. But the reality is that A players will get you way more done than a B and a C player, and God forbid a D player, right? Compensation is the first thing. The second thing is benefits. Benefits, it can include time off. It can include a retirement plan. It can include the ability to remote work. It can include health insurance. It can include anything that is actually a benefit to working at your law firm. Maybe you provide lunches for your staff, or maybe you guys have staff retreats or whatever it is. What are all the benefits that you're going to provide? So compensation, benefits. The third is going to be career pathing, right? Career pathing. A players want to advance their careers. People that are top performers, they don't want to just be stagnant. They always want to be improving. They always want to be getting better, right? So at our company, what we do is we make sure that we understand what are our employees' personal and professional goals. And then we align those goals with the goals of the company so that if they hit the goals of the company, they will also hit their personal and professional goals. And it works really well because now when the company wins, they also win. Now, the next one is going to be work environment. I had to remind myself, I'm not a boss, I'm a coach. I'm trying to coach my team, right? You have to remember that as a coach, you need to delegate context, not control. What does that mean? Here's the outcome that we're looking for. This is kind of where we're going. As an A player, I trust you as a top performer. I'm going to leave it up to you to figure out how we get there because A players want autonomy. They want to be able to determine how they actually achieve the goal that they're going for. They want to be able to determine how they do their work. And here's the thing. If you're hiring A players, then they're going to be people that can figure it out, right? You don't have to micromanage every single thing. You want to be a people-based business, not a systems-based business. A systems-based business is like McDonald's. Every single action is documented in some sort of SOP, right? Here's how you slice the onions, and here's the onions, and this is where they tell you every single step of the way, right? When you're working with A players, the thing that's going to attract them is autonomy. You give the context, you say, here's where we're going, here's why we're going there, here's why this is important, but then you let them figure out how to actually get there. The 5 things so far: compensation, benefits, career pathing, work environment, and the last one is going to be culture. Culture is the lifeblood of the business, and it also culture gets a lot of eye rolls, right? Because it sounds cheesy, but the reality is that your company has to have a culture, and your company will have a culture whether you want one or not. So it's best that you define the culture of your company and answer questions like, where's your company going? Where are you guys going to be in a couple of years? Who are you serving? What's the impact that you're going to have on the community? What are your core values? Let me tell you a terrible core value. A terrible core value is family values. Family values is the worst culture that you can have at your law firm. And the reason why is because families tolerate drama. Families tolerate underperformance. Families make excuses for underperformers. Oh, that's just Uncle Jack. He's always causing drama, you know. Everyone on your team needs to understand that you are not a family. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't respect and love each other, but you are not a family. You are a high performance team. That is what the core value needs to be, is you need to let them know we are a high performance team that is winning the Super Bowl, right? As your company grows, it will shift what is going to be important to top performers. So as you're a smaller company, the last 3 things that I talked about are going to be the most important. So career pathing, work environment, the culture. Those are the things when you're a smaller company, that's what high performers really want to be a part of. But as your company gets bigger, they're really going to be focused on what's the compensation and what are the benefits of working for this law firm as your law firm grows, right? Finally, let's talk about how to actually attract these A players, these top performers, now that we know what they're actually looking for. So one way you can do this is job postings. And we already talked about this, treating your job postings like actual ads. That's what you need to do. But you also need to understand most A players are not on Indeed. They're not out there looking for a job. We actually had an A player who worked for us about a couple years ago. We let him go at about 10 o'clock in the morning. By 2 o'clock, he had another job, right? Because A players get snatched up very, very quickly because everybody wants to work with A players, right? So I'm not saying you shouldn't put job listings out there, but you definitely don't just rely on job postings. And when you put job postings out, make sure that you have enough lines in the water, right? Make sure you're posting multiple places. Indeed, Career Builder, LinkedIn, Monster, ZipRecruiter, all those different places, and anywhere else that you can find that you can post a job listing. You want to do that because you want to have as many lines in the water as possible. The next thing you should do is you should look in your network. Who in your network do you already know that could be an A player or that knows A players, right? My executive assistant is an absolute A player, and one of my daughter's softball coaches was a guy named Lance, and my executive assistant, Emmy, is Lance's wife. And that's how we got connected there. So it was through my network that I found an absolute rock star executive assistant. Now, the other way you can find A players is ask your other A player employees, right? Because A players typically know other A players. So we have a bonus structure put in place when our employees refer other people that get hired by the company. So what happens is they get $1,500 cash when the person gets hired. And then 90 days later, if both people are still employed, they get another $1,500. And that acts as an incentive for them to bring people in, bring in other A players that they know, because they're going to be rewarded for that, right? And A players thrive in scenarios where they are being bonused for different things. The next thing would be outreach. And that is basically understanding and accepting that the best candidates, they're usually not looking for jobs. Think about like that one person that you would love to have on your team. Odds are they're employed, right? Most people are employed, but they're not happy. And that's the best time to reach out to people. So what you want to do, and we typically do this via email or via LinkedIn, we use hunter.io to find email addresses. And we'll reach out and we just ask them, hey, would you be interested in hearing about a new opportunity? And if they say no, then we say, okay, cool. And we just move on. If they say yes, then they probably weren't that happy in the first place. And then we talk to them and we present them with our new opportunity. And sometimes they bite and sometimes they don't, right? So outreach is critical because you can find people who are amazing at their job, but they're not happy with their current employment. I've also been asked, is that ethical to reach out to people? Well, it's not my responsibility to make sure that other people's employees are happy. But if I can bring in somebody that's going to deliver amazing results for my company, which is going to provide better results for all of my employees, for all of my staff, then it's my moral obligation to do so. So that's why I don't have a problem reaching out, and we outreach very, very often. Now, another thing you can do is social media. I actually heard Grant Cardone one time say that he creates content, and he creates a lot of content. He creates content for 4 reasons in this order. Number 1 is to attract talent, right? Number 2 is to learn, so he can learn better. Because a lot of times, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of times you can learn better by actually teaching things to people. The third reason he creates content is to scare his competition. And then the 4th reason, and this is the least important of those, is to actually get clients. The number 1 reason that he creates content on a regular basis is to attract talent. That's Grant Cardone, right? Those are some ways that you can actually find and attract A players. Now, one other thing to mention, company reviews. Before somebody even responds to your post, they're probably going to Google you. What are they going to find? Are they going to find amazing reviews from your clients? Are they going to find good stuff on Glassdoor? You need to make sure that people are saying good things about you online, right? So if you need help getting reviews, check out my book, 5-Star Attorney. That will show you exactly how to get amazing 5-star reviews. And then the last piece of advice I'm going to give you when it comes to finding A players is look at your current A players. Where did they come from? How did you get those A players? And then if you can, go back to that source. So that is how to attract, hire, and retain the best employees. So until next time, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.